to College Basketball Review Studio. I'm Matt Majinski. That's Dan Siegel. And we thank you for joining us here talking college basketball in the off season. Of course, we mentioned before in the last podcast, Ariel's taking a little bit of a leave on the podcast, still doing stuff around CVB Review as a whole, but we should see him back on here in no time. I mean, he was just hosting the Jeopardy as well. So it hasn't really been like Ariel's taking a real break, but yeah, it's just Dan and I for some of these podcasts. And Dan, yeah, it's college basketball. Yeah, that's what we do, but it is also NBA Finals time. I'm a Knicks fan. You're a Knicks fan too, right?
I'm a New York sports fan. So
okay.
Yeah.
So you're probably happy they're there. I'm very happy the Knicks are there. I wouldn't say I'm a diehard Knicks fan, but I do watch the games. I'm not one that watches every regular season game, but very happy my Knicks are in the NBA Finals. Feels good. I realize this, and I will get to the podcast in like 10 seconds, but this is the first time one of my favorite professional teams has made the finals in anything. College football, college basketball, NBA, NFL. That's what I'm really following the most. A little bit of baseball, but yeah, never seen this before. So this is very cool territory for me. Let's get into the podcast, though, because it does have to do with NBA Finals. We decided to put our minds together and rank the top 10 players in these NBA Finals based off of their college careers. So obviously, if you did based off in the NBA, it's almost more self-explanatory that way. This is almost a little bit more difficult to do because you're kind of comparing eras and one-and-dones with guys who've stayed in longer and mid-majors and different power conferences. You get the gist. Dan, I know you're starting us off with the evens. I've got the odds. So take us away with number 10, Jose Alvarado.
Yeah, this was a consensus ranking between the two of us, but I kind of insisted on having him thrown at the end of this list. And I'll tell you why. We're going to have some one and dones here, but he was more of a sustainable college career. We even have some guys that like peaked towards their junior, senior season, whatever their last season was. Jose Alvarado was a very good player for 4 different seasons, which is kind of why I wanted to put him on the list. He was always known, even back in college, for those backcourt steals where he'd like hide in the corner and then the point guard is kind of falling asleep on the other team and he just takes it and gets the easy layup. He was known for that, the whole Grand Theft Alvarado thing. That was a college thing as well. And in 2021, he won ACC Defensive Player of the Year. He was the second-hand man basically to this. So if you remember Moses Wright on that Georgia Tech team, basically Georgia Tech's only good season was in 2021, like in a long time. They won the ACC title. They made the NCAA tournament, obviously, as the automatic bid. And yeah, I mean, averaging 12-3 in every year. He is second actually in the ACC in the last 15 years in steals. 21st all time on that steals list. Reese Beekman is the only one that has more steals in the last 15 years, just 2 more. So Alvarado's at 226, Beekman's at 228. But yeah, happy to talk some Jose Alvarado, Georgia Tech today.
Yeah, definitely an interesting pick. I did not have Alvarado in my top 10, so obviously we do have snubs that we'll get to later, but first I'll go to number 9. Julian Champagnie. This is someone that I thought should be included. Dan, it seems like we kept him around, and obviously it was someone who maybe wouldn't have made the top 10 otherwise, but I looked at Julian Champagnie's overall college career, Dan, and he just missed out on the Rick Pitino-led St. John's program, but for 3 seasons, and especially his last 2, one of the most lethal scorers in the Big East, even for his freshman year. The guy was a Big East All-Freshman, but ended up being a 2-time All-Big East player, never won Conference Player of the Year, but played in, I'll say an era, but this was only a few seasons ago, but the Big East was a lot different a few seasons ago than it is right now. And when Champagnie was in the Big East, scoring 19-20 a game, which he did for 2 straight seasons, it was an impressive feat. A lot of good teams he was going up against. These St. John's teams were actually a little bit underrated under Mike Anderson. All of them had winning records, so it wasn't like it was totally empty stats. Like this was a St. John's team that was trying to get over that hump. They just couldn't under Anderson, and Champagnie was the reason why. So he's obviously made some noise here in the NBA playoffs for kind of playing very well a little bit out of nowhere. But if you followed him with the Red Storm, you knew what he was capable of all along. So Dan, let's go to number 8.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of Big East love on this list.
Yeah.
And we continue that with Mikal Bridges, who had 3 seasons and 73 starts in that peak Villanova era, right? 2015 to 2018. He won 2 titles, first in his freshman year and then in his junior year, 2016, 2018. And yeah, he developed into that elite 3-and-D guy. We see him in the NBA as that. And that's kind of what he developed as under Jay Wright at Villanova. He actually was not a great 3-point shooter at first. In his freshman year, 30%. Raced it up to 39% in his sophomore year, and then up to 44% in his junior season. That junior season, he was a Wooden All-American, I believe, third-team All-American by the other polls. But yeah, Bridges was not the main guy on those Villanova teams. We will talk about a couple of the main guys on the Villanova teams. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that they are in the future of this list, but he was a very good, like, high-level role player on those teams.
All right, and of course, Dan, Mikal Bridges there at number 8 and number 7. I've got Karl Anthony Towns. Again, we agreed on this. I think we both agreed Cat should be in these rankings. 1 year, so we talk about a one and done, but pretty obvious when you go first overall, drafted by the Timberwolves, when you're a consensus All-American. This was during the prime of John Calipari recruiting crazy at Kentucky. So obviously, you look at 10 points per game, about 7 rebounds a game, not going to jump off the page, but doing that in 21 minutes per game and as pretty much the go-to guy along with Devin Booker, Aaron Harrison, just so many guys in these Kentucky squads. But there's a reason he was the first overall pick. It's because he had an outstanding season when he was on the court at Kentucky. So Karl Anthony Towns, no-brainer that even in that short year, he deserves to be in this top 10 based on his short college career. All right, bring us to number 6, Stan.
Yeah, we got Harrison Barnes. So I guess a little bit of a throwback here, kind of, right? If you call 2011 and 2012 a throwback, I guess in 2026 we could say that. And yeah, that's where he played at UNC. He had 2 very elite seasons there. He's just a hooper, like accomplished high school prospect, accomplished college player, went 7th overall. Hasn't had like an insane NBA career, but like he's still doing it in the Big 26. That's pretty cool. He averaged 15.6 and 17.1 points, respectively, in his 2 seasons. These were top 5 UNC teams under Roy Williams. His 1B, I believe, was Tyler Zeller. So it was like Harrison Barnes, Tyler Zeller there. I want to say they lost in the Elite 8 both of those years, I think is what I found. But like they were top 5, top 1 at some point. Like this was prime UNC despite being a little underwhelming in the tournament. And Barnes was one of the main guys, if not the main guy there.
Yeah, no, Harrison Barnes definitely deserves to be there. We move into the top 5, and that's where we have Tyler Kolek, another Big East guy. Do want to shout out George Mason. They're one of the latest teams in our rankings of all the D1 programs. They are not there because of Tyler Kolek, but definitely an interesting part of George Mason's history. But we're talking about what Kolek did at Marquette, right? 3 seasons, all 3 seasons leading the Big East in assists per game. Senior year, 7.7 assists per game, also leading the country in that category. He was a 2-time All-American. He was a consensus All-American in 2024. Again, that's the stat. If you've been following our rankings, we've been counting consensus All-Americans. And when we get to Marquette, well, luckily for them, they had Tyler Kolek. So that's going to bump them up a bit in the rankings because Tyler Kolek was as dominant as it gets in the college game for some very good Marquette teams that Shaka Smart was fortunate enough to have. And yeah, I mean, what else can you say? He doesn't even really play for the Knicks, but based on college careers, one of the most legendary careers you could have. Tyler Kolek, without a doubt, on this list. If anyone wants to argue that, argue with a wall because Tyler Kolek is top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
Here, take us to number 4.
Yeah, number 4, we got Kelly Olynyk. This is a really interesting, fun player to talk about. By the way, he's pretty much buried away on the Spurs bench. I think he actually played a bunch in Game 7, if I recall correctly, but mostly does not play much in the NBA right now. But yeah, early 2010s Gonzaga, take you back. He played 4 seasons, but like this guy is known for his just late, seemingly random, but not actually random emergence. So he spent 2 seasons on the bench, was kind of an underwhelming player, redshirted to transform his game. This is something we're not going to see anymore, like this type of player, this type of trend. But he redshirted in his junior year and then transformed his game, transformed his body. And then his senior year, he was one of the best players in the country, West Coast Conference Player of the Year, consensus, All-American. Like now, if you're just underwhelming at a power conference school, you're just going to go down, play a year at the mid-major level. This is a very respectable kind of trend, kind of investment that he made. and obviously it paid off. He's in the NBA, and he was on that Gonzaga team that entered the tournament, I believe, 30-2. Then they ran into that iconic Wichita State team, the Van Vliet and Ron Baker, that team, and ends up losing in the first weekend in the second round. But yeah, that's a very fun story, and he had an incredible season that one year.
Yeah, that's for sure. Here's where I feel like we can get some debate, and it is Mason Plumlee at number 3. I know this is a tough one, and I promise you he is in the NBA Finals. He plays for the Spurs as well. You talk about Olynyk being buried on the bench. Mason Plumlee is very much buried on the bench, but technically on the playoff roster. He's played a few minutes against the Thunder in that last round. Mason Plumlee, where do you even begin? A national champion, a consensus All-American, came in with high expectations. And I don't know how else to explain this, but if you followed college basketball when he was there at Duke from 2009 to 2013, you knew who Mason Plumlee was. He was a household name in terms of college basketball for his senior year, and I would even say his junior year, because Duke, everyone knows Duke, and Plumlee was a great player for them even when he was a junior, averaging 11 and 9. Of course, that senior year, 17 and 10 is what Mason Plumlee put up. He was the NABC Big Man of the Year, so the man was dominant in college. And the reason, at least I thought he should be above Olynyk, Dan, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts, is based on the fact that Plumlee was a champion and he played for Duke. And I know that's, I don't know, you're comparing apples to oranges there, and Gonzaga has a great program as well, but it just means more, especially in that era with Coach K. That's why I thought Plumlee got the nod over him.
Oh, over Olynyk, I think absolutely. You actually had him number 2 over the guy I'm about to talk about. Yeah. So we had him swapped. I'll say it now. It's Josh Hart is number 2 on our list. So I had Hart 2. You had him. You had Hart 3, and we had him flipped with Plumlee. I convinced you to be able to do Hart number 2. But so it's good that I get to talk about Josh Hart. But here's my case on him. This is another one of our peak Villanova guys, and his first 2 seasons kind of like a similar career trajectory as we've talked about, like a solid bench piece, nothing special. His last 2 years was when he was special, and it was that 2016 team that won the title, had a great tournament, was on the all-tournament team. And then 2017, Villanova went 32-4 and only made it to the round of 32. So that's a disappointing year for Jay Wright, but he was the guy on a team that won 32 games. Like, he was basically, you want, that like old grandpa telling you, like, you got to watch this guy, like he knows what he's doing. Like, that was Josh Hart. His like defensive versatility, his rebounding, his leadership, his hustle. He was that guy. He was the prototypical hooper that old school fans loved, and like we loved him too. Like he was just incredible. Yeah, I mean, Josh Hart, that was debatable, and I think our number 1 is very undebatable. I don't think anybody could come at us for this one.
Yeah, I mean, the National Player of the Year in his last season, Jalen Brunson, 2 national championships to Villanova. Of course, you heard it in the press conference. He ain't letting anyone get away with that, right? Brunson won 2 of them. Hart only won 1 of them. Obviously, and I do want to say, Dan, to the other thing, like, I really debated Hart and Plumlee too, and I want people out there to know that I know about Josh Hart. I am not blind to what Josh Hart did in college basketball. But yeah, no one comes close to what Jalen Brunson did as far as college careers for these players in the NBA Finals. Jalen Brunson was the guy in college hoops, not just the guy for Villanova, but he was unstoppable. And there's a reason he's doing his thing for the Knicks right now. Without a doubt, Jalen Brunson, the top guy in the NBA Finals. So that's our top 10. A couple of guys that got left off, De'Aaron Fox and Steph Castle. To me, Steph Castle was on the list until it just became apparent that it was going to be really tough. And other than being a national champion, not a whole lot else you can say in that first year. It wasn't like he was an All-American or anything like that. And I think De'Aaron Fox, great one-and-done season, but just kind of got, Karl-Anthony Towns got the edge over him. Like, again, when you're a consensus All-American, it just means a little bit more. De'Aaron Fox had an outstanding season with Kentucky, but Malik Monk was kind of the guy that year. So that's kind of, what I have to say about that. Is there anyone else? I know that Keldon Johnson I looked at for a little bit. Did you look at anyone else? Or?
To him, Miles, like, I'm fine with the way our list turned out. Like a guy like Deuce McBride, a guy like Devin Vassell was another guy.
Yeah.
Devin Vassell was another guy I looked at, like, just an I think he was like the sixth man on that Florida State team.
Yeah.
The guy was unranked, I think, as a recruit, and just had an insane year at Florida State for like that peak top 5 Florida State team. I don't think he belonged on the list, but it's worth a mention if we're on this episode. So, yeah.
A lot of great players. People say that the college game is dead, but like all these NBA players pretty much played in college, like at one point or another. So like it's fun to see where they've all come from. But Dan, we want to end this podcast with a small little game I came up with. We got 5 questions for you.
Okay.
This is what I researched. I'll say 3 is passing. You definitely need at least 3, but I'm hoping you get at least 4. No prize out here. We'll just see how good you do. The whole game is 5 players throughout NBA history. And you have to tell me if they had more points in their college career or in their NBA playoffs career.
Interesting.
And I'll tell you how many games for each. So the first one is Oscar Robertson. More points in his college career or NBA playoffs. In college, he played 88 games. Of course, Oscar Robertson playing for Cincinnati. Pretty dominant player for a few years. And then became an NBA star and had 86 playoff games. So pretty much the same amount of games, but Dan, I guess you got to tell me where we scored more points.
I'm college here. That's going to be my guess here. He was one of the highest scoring players of all time. So I can go college.
You're on college?
Yeah,
you are correct. So in the NBA, Oscar Robertson scored a little over 1,900 career points. In college, he was almost at 3,000.
Okay,
so, that was the easiest. There was a reason that was the first one, but you got one. So we'll move on to maybe one that's a little bit harder. Draymond Green.
Ooh.
And this is tough because obviously, and I'm not trying to sway you either way, but NBA, definitely a crucial player, maybe more of a role player. Other guys doing a little bit more of the scoring. In college, Draymond Green definitely did have more of a green light at Michigan State. So in college, Draymond Green played 145 games. In the NBA playoffs, 169 games. So 24 more NBA playoff games, but still a lot of games played in college as well.
Yeah, this is interesting. It's almost like a really complex math problem that I'm obviously not going to do in my head, but I'm going to go NBA playoffs for this one.
Dan, you are 2 for 2 in his 145 college games, scored a little bit over 1,500 points. NBA playoffs, over 1,900 points, 1,934. So even though maybe not as much of a green light, Draymond Green still enough of a scorer throughout his NBA playoff career to have almost 2,000 points scored. These ones are going to get a little bit tougher, and I had to have one that has to do with the finals this year. So we're going to give you Jalen Brunson. And this is where it gets a little bit trickier because you're really going to have to decipher this. NBA playoffs, he's played 81 games and counting. In college, 116 games. So there is a 35-game difference for Jalen Brunson there.
I'm not my final answer yet, but my first instinct is NBA playoffs because just these games with the Knicks, like the being an elite player in college and being an elite player in the NBA, which Brunson was both. Like the scoring environment in the NBA is just so much higher. The number of points per game you get as an equivalent elite player is just so much more. I think it's NBA playoffs here. That's my guess.
You are correct. Jalen Brunson with 2,077 points in the playoffs. College, 1,667. So, Dan, you're 3 for 3. I've been trying to decide which one I want to do next. I guess I'll switch it up here because the way you're going, I don't know. Maybe I'll try to stump you here. We will go to Damian Lillard next, and this is a tough one. I think this is a real tough one. 68 games in his NBA playoff career, 104 in college, of course, with Weber State. So 68 NBA playoff games, 104 games in college.
I have no idea like how many he averaged at Weber State. Obviously, very good player there, but I can't tell you if he averaged 16, 22. Like, I'm going to go college.
Dan, you are 4 for 4.
Wow.
And that was definitely one of the closer ones. 1,715 points in the playoffs, 1,934 in college. So only about a 200-point differential, which is kind of crazy that in 36 fewer games in the NBA playoffs, only about 200 points shy of his college career total. just speaks to how great Damian Lillard has been or was, especially at his peak.
So do you have the average in front of you? The Weber State average points per game?
I do not have the average in front of me.
All right. Well, we could do the math after the episode, but I would be curious there. All right. Hit me with the last
I got you with the last one. Carlos Boozer.
Ooh.
Not Cameron Boozer. Carlos Boozer. I don't know how much you know about Carlos Boozer. This is by far the closest one, so I don't even know if this is a hint, but 83 playoff games, 101 games in college, of course, played at Duke. So 83 NBA playoff games, 101 games played in college. And I will tell you that the answer here is separated by fewer than 100 total points.
All right. Well, I could overthink this, but if it's separated by such little points, it's really just a random guess for me. Will I go 5 for 5? Well, my answer is college career.
Dan, you have gone 5 for 5 in the game. 1,506 points in Carlos Boozer's college career, 1,420 in the NBA playoffs. And hey, he was on some good teams. I think he made the playoffs with the Cavs, obviously played with the Bulls, played with the Jazz. Not sure how many playoff appearances they had. He wasn't like a lifer in the playoffs, but definitely a key component. And yeah, somehow in that college career, he still had more at Duke. So Dan going 5 for 5. And you know what? While I'm on it, I'll look up Damian Lillard's college stats. I'll bring this up real quick. 18.6 for his career. Very interesting. Freshman 11.5, sophomore 19.9. And you kind of forget this. As a junior, he was obviously hurt, ended up only playing 10 games. Only averaged 17.7 anyways. Came back for the senior year, 24.5 points per game as a senior. Damian Lillard was just hooping it up at Weber State. So, Dan, you go 5 for 5. I guess I need to come up with a more difficult game next time. Maybe not. Maybe.
Last one was just a lucky. Like, I went 50-50 guess on that and got it right on that last one.
I was like, I don't know if I want to give you the games, but I feel like I have to tell you how many games they played because otherwise it's like, what are we even doing here? Like, it's just a total guess. But well played. And again, hope you all liked our countdown of top players in the finals because that can be very up for debate as well. But look, for Dan Siegel, I'm Matt Majinski saying enjoy your finals the next couple of weeks, and we will talk to you next time.